Hello again, Michael Ware with IFC here. We've got a candidate file. This is a special one. I say it, everybody's a special guest, but they truly are. It's a blessing and a privilege to be able to visit with so many great people. We've got Ashley Hinson here from the state of Iowa. She's running for the United States Senate. We're going to go real quick into our basic 4 questions that we ask as part of IFC's legislative agenda. And then we want to turn the mic over to Congresswoman Ashley Hinson so she can tell us a little bit about herself, update us on the campaign, and figure out how we can be engaged. Are you ready to begin?
Sure. Thanks, Michael, for having me. And thanks to all of your listeners for being such great advocates.
Thank you. We're ready to go. Okay, so the first question that we ask everybody is, here's the context, and then I'll ask the question. History has shown that making a rule or posting a sign declaring a place a no-gun zone, such as a school, does nothing to protect the people gathered there. In fact, there's irrefutable evidence that some of the worst mass murderers, specifically, I did that wrong. My apologies. There we go. Specifically chose those sites to avoid armed resistance. Federal law and some states' law would allow a person with a valid permit to carry a firearm in schools and on school property. So the question is this: will you support changing Iowa code to allow a permit to carry being sufficient for Iowa schools?
Yeah. Well, let me start off by saying I am a mom to 2 school-age boys myself, so I get this, right? I, for years, put them on the school bus. Now I'm watching them scooter or taking them to school myself. And so I always have thought we need to focus on how can we keep our kids and our communities safe. I want to make sure kids are safe at school, wherever they are, really. And I know every parent always has that kind of same thought in the back of their mind. These are our babies. And the reality that we face, which you just mentioned, is that criminals do not follow no gun zone signs. They don't follow the laws to begin with, but they certainly don't follow those no gun zone sign warnings. So people with hate in their law, or hate in their heart, rather, are not going to follow the law. And I say this all the time. I wish we could legislate away that hate, but we can't. So what we can do, though, is support common sense efforts that allow trained, law-abiding citizens, people who are qualified to protect themselves while respecting local decision-making in the process, and making sure that our schools also have the flexibility to implement strong safety measures that work for their communities. So I think it's a partnership between our gun owners and law enforcement to make sure that, should something bad happen, everybody knows how to act. That's what I would want to see happen in one of those situations. I don't want to see someone who's a lawful gun owner get hurt while trying to help someone at a school. That's the only feedback that I've gotten as I've had these conversations with both sides of the approach here, right? And that's what I think needs to be, because at the end of the day, this is about keeping people safe in places where bad people, again, don't respect the laws.
Fantastic. Thank you. Here's the next question. I'll offer the context and then blurt it right out there. When an employer bans the possession of a firearm or ammunition in a private vehicle on employer property, employees must face a choice between risking dismissal by ignoring the rule or being disarmed from the time they leave the home until they return, no matter how long their commute or how many other places they may need to visit. IFC believes that the proper place to draw the line between the rights of employers and the rights of including the expectation of privacy and the right to be armed in self-defense is at the locked door of a private vehicle. The laws of 26 states agree. The question is this: will you support legislation to protect Iowans from the de facto ban on private and public employer parking lots?
Yeah, I think simply, I think if you're allowed to carry a firearm, you're keeping it stored in your locked vehicle. You shouldn't be forced to choose between keeping your safe on your drive or your commute to work and keeping your job. I think that's common sense policy. And again, I think there is a reasonable balance between protecting constitutional rights of responsible gun owners and private property rights as well. But again, I think when we're talking about responsible gun owners here, everyone knows that the people who are following laws on the books are securely storing their weapons and they're following safety precautions. So again, I think this is a common sense thing to enshrine the rights of our responsible gun owners while, again, promoting safety and still respecting private property.
Fantastic. Thank you. Context for the third question. Since 1934, federal law is tightly regulated, but does not prohibit the private ownership of machine gun suppressors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is Iowa specific. Since 2016 and 17, Iowa has allowed for private ownership and the use of suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and shotguns. The repeal in the state's earlier prohibition has not resulted in any apparent problems. Iowa was one of only 14 states that banned the private possession of machine guns, even when in full compliance with federal law. Nationwide, crime committed with lawfully possessed machine guns has been almost non-existent. Iowa believes Iowa's ban on offensive weapons, IFC believes Iowa's ban on offensive weapons is redundant and unnecessary. The question is this: will you support removing 724 and 1 and related statutes from Iowa Code?
Yeah, well, I have always strongly supported the Second Amendment. I believe that our laws should focus on stopping dangerous criminals, not burdening responsible law-abiding gun owners, right? Again, to our earlier conversation about the people who are not going to comply with gun zone signs or no gun zone signs, people are either going to comply with the law or they're not. And so lawfully owned firearms that are already regulated under our federal law are heavily vetted, tightly controlled. As everyone knows, the process sucks to go through getting these weapons in many cases. And so I've obviously tried to do some work there to make sure the ATF process is better, but I think we need to be encouraging our elected officials at the state level to look at our statutes that are either redundant or outdated, or in some cases in conflict with federal code as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. So here's our final question. This is one I'm personally very passionate about. IFC advocates for the creation of a specially Gadsden flag license plate in Iowa, symbolizing Second Amendment rights, opposition to government overreach. The plate is intended to be a voluntary funding mechanism for 2A educational programs through the additional fee. Despite passing the Iowa House with bipartisan support 2 years consecutively, the measure failed in the Senate, prompting IFC to urge Iowans to contact their legislators in support of the plate, which they see as a reflection of the will of the people, especially following the passage of the state's Freedom Amendment. The historical "Don't Tread on Me" motto of the Gadsden flag is highlighted as a powerful statement against government intrusion. Here's the question: will you support the Gadsden plate legislation that directs voluntary funding for 2A education, safety, and training?
Yeah, well, and I can tell you, having served out in Washington, D.C. now for several years, I see these plates everywhere, right? And I think our right to keep and bear arms, it's clearly enshrined in our federal constitution. I was proud to support that effort at the state level. A couple of times I got the opportunity to vote for it, and I'm very pleased it's now in our constitution here in Iowa. We know Democrats will continue to push gun control proposals. I've stood against those. And so when I look at the education and the voluntary nature that comes from a plate like this that helps to support firearm safety, which they should want, helps education, the training programs, again, not a burden on Iowa taxpayers, but an option. I'm 100% open to that. This is obviously something I can't vote on at the federal level. During my time in the state level, I would have absolutely supported it. I supported many voluntary plate legislation, pieces of legislation. So again, always will stand strong against efforts that are wrongfully targeting law-abiding citizens, and pushing for real solutions that are going to make sure we're respecting people who follow the law.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, so I want to share a different screen now. I'm going to move over to, let's see here. Now, we spoke about this briefly before we started. I apologize to everybody listening. For those of you watching, this will be self-evident, but we're not able to mention or write websites across many streaming platforms now. So here's the trick. If you open up your web browser and you put in the name Ashley and the name Hinson, I am supremely confident you'll arrive at the right place. So those of you trying to find this, type in Ashley and Hinson, Hinson, and you will arrive. I've got your site up here rolling. It looks like you've got some fine gentlemen with you there in the picture. Nice family. So tell us what you'd like. I'm handing the mic over to you, Ashley Hinson. Please tell us what you'd like us to know.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, what drives me the most, and you mentioned the nice little gentleman with me as I kind of advertise what I'm doing around the state, but those are my boys, right? That's my family. At the heart of everything I do, I'm the mom with the minivan, driving common sense priorities for our state and our country, and I think that's what I really bring to the table. And I've proven myself as a solid conservative who stands up for our Constitution and our constitutional rights. I will work with anyone who will help me to advance Iowa's priorities in the right way. That doesn't mean I'm not going to call out bad ideas. I will do that fiercely. And I think Iowans need someone who's going to be a fierce fighter for them in the right way. And that's what I bring to the table. I've, again, I have a proven record of being a common sense conservative and getting those priorities across the finish line while respecting taxpayers, making sure we're standing up for rural America. And most importantly, which is, I think, at the crux of our conversation and what your folks care about, is safety and security, right? If we don't have a safe and secure country, what do we have in essence? And so that's why I continue to support a lot of these policies that push back on nonsense from some states that don't allow people to carry weapon. I'm a big supporter of the concealed carry reciprocity legislation so that if you have the permit in Iowa, you can carry in other states. I think that should be universal across the country. I was very proud last year in the Big Beautiful Bill to support the legislation that got rid of, I saw it as an unconstitutional tax on people looking to get suppressors and other weapons. So I have a strong record of standing up for Iowans' priorities. And so at the end of the day, though, teenage boy mom, nothing prepares you better to serve in Congress or the United States Senate than negotiating with teenagers who smell bad and talk back to you all the time.
You said a mouthful there. I almost interjected. I don't like to interrupt people, especially when they're offering something that's heartfelt and that they want people to hear. But when you said that you drove a minivan, I must confess something wicked. I've been able to avoid that so far as a parent, and my wife was one of these people that said, you know what? I feel like if we buy a minivan, I'll die a little inside. And I said, okay, then they're convenient and they work great. But if you don't want a minivan, then we don't have to have it. So my fingers are crossed. I may make it through parent without that. I don't know. But if you like them, you go.
Well, let me tell you, Michael, I had that moment where I died inside when I turned 30. I'm 40, almost 43 now. I've been driving minivans since then because what happened was, frankly, just, again, speaking about common sense, I had two babies in essence. Max was like 2.5 and Jax was like 6 months old in a carrier. And I was throwing my back out every time I was loading these kids into the car and all their paraphernalia. And so I just wanted the thing where I could hit the button on either side and the doors would open. And so it's been a game changer for me and I've never gone back. And trust me, you can still get a minivan with a bump in sound system.
Fantastic. That's great. Okay, so I don't want to move past this. So people have by now got it in their heads. They understand if they type in Ashley and Hinson, they'll arrive at your site. Now, there are places, this is a resource for people. Yeah. You can go there and find out where they can meet you, how they can link up with you, endorsements, volunteerism, ways to contribute and be up to date. Are there other things besides this that you want us to know so that we can continue our contact with you during this primary season into the general election?
Yes, well, and I'm going to be, I just finished my 99 county tour this week. So I've been all over the state to every single county, hearing directly from Iowans, from you, where you are and what your priorities are. I was just at a manufacturer yesterday. They make the tactical gear to prevent bullets from going through, so vests. And that's incredible that they're making those things right here in Iowa. A former Marine, obviously, who's trying to keep people safe. So I've heard directly from manufacturers, again, about safety. I would say engage with our team because we're going to tell you where we're going to be all over the state in the coming weeks. And then heading into November, you look at what's at stake right now. Iowa's Senate seat, we haven't had an open Senate seat and an open governor's race in, at least not in my lifetime. I think it's been since like the late 60s, right, that both of these have been open. Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure our Second Amendment supporters know what's at stake in this election. We've seen what the left is offering, what Democrats who want gun control and want to make it impossible to obtain a firearm are trying to do every single day. And again, my approach has always been you can balance safety and access to firearms without impeding on people's constitutional rights. And so that will continue to be my approach, making sure due process exists across every policy that we look at. And again, not putting undue burdens or undue taxes on people who want to exercise their Second Amendment rights. So that's what's at stake, is a candidate who's going to bring that perspective to the table, or one, right now, both Democrats are duking it out in this primary. I think they're both crazy on gun control. You can look at their records on this. But no matter who comes out of that primary, that's the direction they're going, because that's what the far left base wants. So we need to push back on that. And that's why it's so important to show up in June and in November.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any final words before we let you go? We appreciated your time today. Is there anything else?
I would just say I've been an open book my entire time in public service. Again, I was a journalist before I was a politician. I'm not afraid to ask tough questions. I'm not afraid to be asked tough questions. And that's what I think Iowans expect of their representative, someone who's going to work hard, listen, go to bat for our priorities, and make sure we're delivering. And again, you want something done in Washington, D.C., give it to a busy working mom.
Fantastic. With a bump and sound system in her minivan to boot.
Right.
Thank you very much. I'll let you lead us out in your goodbyes, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Thank you so much for being with us today. Congresswoman Ashley Hinson, lead us out on our end here.
Yes, I'll just say thank you again for the work you do. Your tireless advocacy is so appreciated. Let's keep it up, and let's go win in November.
Thank you.
Thank you.